They say a mate is your fated one, your other half, the person your wolf recognizes before your mind even catches up. But sometimes fate plays cruel jokes. For me, that joke began the moment Theron's amber eyes first found mine across the great hall of the northern pack 2 years ago. My wolf sang with recognition, a piercing, joyful howl that echoed through my very bones. I didn't question it then. Wolves don't question the pull of a mate bond. We surrender to it, we worship it, we die for it. But Theron had other plans, and it would take me years to understand just how terrible those plans truly were. The first months were perfect in the way that fairy tales are perfect, meaning they were completely false, constructed of lies and manipulation that I was too naive to see through. He would trace his fingers along my jawline with such tenderness, call me his beautiful, ethereal treasure, whisper that our pups would be legendary and reshape the future of the northern pack. He marked me with his scent in front of the entire pack, made love to me beneath the full moon with such intensity that I felt like the center of his entire world, promised me everything a young she-wolf could dream of. I was his and he was mine, or so I believed with every fiber of my being. But pups never came, and that silence would become my greatest torment. For the first 6 months, I thought perhaps it was simply a matter of time, as was often the case with new mates. The females in the pack assured me with what I thought was genuine kindness that sometimes it takes longer for a body to settle into its role, that my body was still adjusting to being marked, that I should be patient and trust in Luna's timing. But patience is a luxury that wears thin when the man you've bound yourself to begins to grow cold as the winter winds sweeping down from the northern mountains. By month 8, the way Theron looked at me had fundamentally changed. The warmth in his amber eyes frosted over like winter ice on a forgotten lake, like fire dying in a hearth until nothing remains but ash. He would look at me as if I was a disappointment, as if something inside him had shattered when he realized that my womb remained stubbornly empty. By the first anniversary of our mating, he barely touched me. There would be nights when he would share our bed, but he would lie on the far edge, his back to me, his breathing deliberately shallow, as if the very air I breathed had become distasteful to him. I tried everything, desperate and grasping at straws, like a drowning woman clinging to driftwood in a terrible storm. I consumed the fertility herbs that the pack herbalist recommended, drinking bitter tonics that made my stomach churn and my teeth ache. I performed the ancient moon bathing rituals that had been passed down through generations of she-wolves, standing naked beneath the full moon and calling out to Luna herself, begging her to bless my womb with life. In my desperation, I even cut my wrists and offered my blood to the ancient powers that governed wolf bloodlines, the old magic that my ancestors had worshipped before the packs became organized and civilized. My blood fell to the earth in the sacred grove, dripping onto moss-covered stones while I chanted prayers in the old tongue that few wolves still knew. Nothing worked. My body remained stubbornly barren, a failure in every way that mattered to a she-wolf, every way that society measured my worth. Theron began to doubt me openly, and worse, he began to doubt me in ways that the entire pack could see. I could watch it happening, could see it in the way his gaze lingered on the other unmated females during pack gatherings, his eyes calculating and considering as if he was already imagining what a replacement might offer him that I could not. He whispered with his beta during pack meetings, their heads bent close together, their eyes always finding me across the room. A look of pity mixed with something far worse, something that looked almost like contempt. The shame burned hotter than any fire could burn, hotter than the sun itself. A barren mate is considered a curse in pack society, whispered about in hushed tones in the common areas where the females gathered to work. I had failed at the one thing that defined my worth as a she-wolf, and everyone knew it. The mothers who had once smiled at me warmly began to turn away when I entered a room. The other young females who had been my companions and friends stopped inviting me to their gatherings. And the elders, the ancient she-wolves who had survived generations and knew the pack's bloodlines better than anyone, looked at me with an expression of profound pity that somehow cut deeper than if they had shown me contempt. I heard them talking when they thought I couldn't hear. The barren one, they called me, as if that single fact had become my only defining characteristic. What a shame, they would whisper. Such a beautiful girl, so ethereal and delicate. But what use is beauty if she cannot fulfill her basic purpose? Theron deserves better. He deserves a mate who can give him heirs. Theron's mother was worst of all. She began to visit our chambers regularly, appearing without warning, her sharp eyes assessing me as if I was a piece of livestock at market. She would make comments about my hips, suggesting they were too narrow, my shoulders too fragile. She questioned whether I was actually eating enough, whether perhaps I was starving myself intentionally to prevent conception, as if such a thing made any sense at all. One afternoon, she pulled me aside in the corridor and whispered words that would haunt my nightmares for years to come. My son is wasting his potential on you. A strong alpha needs a strong mate, one who can bear powerful sons. You are clearly too weak, too delicate. He should have rejected you months ago. The only question is why he hasn't. Her words planted seeds of doubt in my mind that grew like poison ivy, choking out any remaining hope I had been clinging to. Then came the night of the full moon, exactly 2 years after our mate bond was sealed, exactly 2 years of mounting shame and deteriorating affection, and the slow, agonizing death of everything I thought I had found with my fated mate. The pack had gathered in the great stone courtyard beneath the silver glow of Luna herself, answering the call that echoed through our bones when the moon reached its fullest. Fires burned in ceremonial circles throughout the space, tended by the firekeepers who ensured the flames stayed true and pure. The council was meeting to discuss territorial disputes with the neighboring packs and various political matters of pack governance. Theron sat elevated above the rest of us, on his throne of blackened wood and bone, a throne that had been carved from the cursed tree that grew at the heart of the northern pack's oldest burial ground, adorned with the bones of former alphas who had ruled before him. He looked every inch the powerful alpha he was, his massive frame clad in black leather that caught the firelight, his amber eyes sharp and calculating, his presence commanding the respect and fear of everyone in the courtyard. I stood to his left, as a mate should, my hand resting on the armrest of his chair, my white silk gown carefully arranged so that it draped elegantly, my hair brushed until it shone like black glass. I thought perhaps he was finally ready to announce something significant, maybe a solution, maybe a ceremony to strengthen our bond after these difficult 2 years, maybe even an admission that we would need to work harder together. I was so incredibly naive about the depths of his cruelty, so unprepared for what was about to happen. His voice cut through the gathering like a blade of ice, sharp and sudden and absolutely devastating. A barren mate is worthless. No preamble, no context, just those words spoken with the casual cruelty of someone squashing an insect beneath his boot, as if he was commenting on the weather or remarking on the quality of the evening's entertainment. The entire courtyard went silent in a way that felt unnatural, as if all the wolves present had stopped breathing at the same moment. Hundreds of eyes turned toward me, eyes filled with shock, with pity, with a kind of morbid fascination, as if they were watching something die. I felt the blood drain from my face, as if someone had opened a vein and let all my life's essence spill onto the cold stone beneath my feet. I felt my legs become unsteady beneath me, and I gripped the armrest of his throne to keep myself from falling. This wasn't a private concern between mates, discussed in the privacy of our chambers or with the counsel of trusted elders. This was a public execution of my value and worth, a complete and total humiliation delivered before everyone I had come to know in the Northern Pack. She has had 2 years, Theron continued, rising slowly from his throne to tower above the assembly, his shadow falling across my body like a physical force. 2 years to fulfill her duty as mate to the alpha of the Northern Pack. 2 years to bear an heir who would carry my bloodline into the future and strengthen our position among the 5 territories. Instead, her womb remains empty. She is useless to me. She is useless to this pack. She drains resources that could be better spent on she-wolves who can actually conceive and produce the heirs that our people desperately need. My wolf whimpered inside me, a sound of anguish so profound that I nearly fell to my knees, right there before everyone. The sound was like a dying animal, a creature in its last moments before the final darkness takes it. Around the courtyard, I searched desperately for a friendly face, for someone who might speak up in my defense. But what I found instead broke me more than his words ever could have. I saw sympathy in some faces, pity written clearly across their features, but mostly I saw contempt and judgment. A barren she-wolf was worse than a rogue, worse than a criminal or an outcast. At least rogues had the excuse of being wild and untamed by pack law. I had been given everything: status as the mate of the most powerful alpha in 5 territories, security and comfort, the honor of being marked, a place of honor in pack hierarchy. And I had failed to return even the most basic currency of our kind: offspring. I had squandered the gift of my position and wasted Theron's time. I hereby declare this mating null and void, Theron announced, his voice ringing out like a death knell, like the tolling of a bell that signifies the end of a life. She is cast out from the Northern Pack, effective immediately, effective right now. Any who harbor her, any who offer her shelter or assistance or even a kind word will be considered rogues themselves and will be dealt with accordingly by my hand. She is no longer my mate. She is no longer a member of this pack. She is nothing. She is less than nothing. She is the failure that proves what happens when you mistake physical beauty for actual worth. The words hit harder than any physical blow ever could have. I could feel the mate bond, that silver thread that connected my soul to his, that binding that every werewolf considers more sacred than life itself, beginning to fray and tear under the weight of his rejection. It felt like someone was pulling the thread from my very center, like my essence was being ripped away from me piece by piece. The pain was beyond anything I had ever experienced, a spiritual agony that made me want to howl and scream and claw at my own skin. It should have killed me. For most she-wolves, a rejection like that, public, humiliating, total, delivered before the entire pack, would have meant death. The grief alone would have stopped their hearts, would have caused their wolves to turn inward and consume them from the inside out until nothing remained but a hollow shell. But I was different, though I didn't know it yet. I was stronger than they thought, stronger than I knew, stronger in ways that would only become clear in the weeks and months that followed. I walked out of that courtyard on shaking legs, my torn white gown dragging through the dirt and the debris of the ceremonial gathering. My silver crescent moon pendant caught the moonlight one last time as I left everything I had ever known behind, every friendship, every comfort, every plan I had made for my future as the mate of an alpha. The pack didn't follow me. No one fought for me. No one even spoke my name. I half expected to feel paws on my heels, to hear the sounds of pursuit, but there was only silence behind me as I walked toward the darkness beyond the courtyard lights. For 3 days, I wandered the forests between the northern and eastern territories, barely eating, barely sleeping, existing in a state that was neither living nor dying. I was trapped in a purgatory of my own making. I was living only out of pure, stubborn instinct. The animal part of me, refusing to surrender to the despair that threatened to overwhelm me, even though my heart was completely shattered and my spirit was broken. I had lost my mate, my pack, my home, and my entire future in one brutal moment that would replay in my mind for years to come. The paths beneath my feet were rocky and unwelcoming, and my bare feet bled as I walked. The wind of the mountains bit at my exposed skin. The nights were so cold that I wondered if I would simply freeze to death before I had to make any decisions about continuing to live. I collapsed beside a river on the 3rd night, my body giving out entirely, my strength depleted. This is where the story could have ended. This is the moment where countless other she-wolves would have allowed the despair to take them completely, would have allowed the bond break and the rejection to pull them down into the darkness. But something extraordinary happened at that moment. A man emerged from the darkness. No, not a man. An alpha, but unlike any alpha I had ever encountered before. He was tall and powerfully built, with warm bronze skin that seemed to hold the warmth of the earth itself, and dark hair that caught the silver light of the full moon in surprising ways. Silver streaks ran through his dark locks at the temples, unusual for someone who appeared to be only in his late 20s or early 30s. The streaks seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly quality, speaking to his deep connection with old magic and ancient bloodlines. His deep forest green eyes glowed softly in the darkness, carrying within them the warmth of 1,000 campfires. And when he looked at me, lying broken and bleeding beside the river, I felt something I hadn't felt since my rejection. Recognition. Not the burning, possessive recognition of a mate bond that overwhelms all sense of reason, but something far older and more complex, something that spoke to parts of myself I didn't even know existed. "Easy," he said, his voice like honey and earth, like autumn leaves and the smell of a healing garden. You're safe now, little she-wolf. You're in the territory of the Eastern Pack, and I am Alaric, healer and alpha of these lands. No one is going to hurt you here, not while I draw breath. I should have been afraid. A she-wolf alone in the territory of a strange pack, especially one overseen by an unknown alpha, should have filled me with dread and the instinct to run. But instead, I felt the first genuine warmth I had experienced in months, maybe longer. He knelt beside me with a gentleness that seemed impossible in such a large, powerful wolf, and his hands glowed with soft green light as they hovered over my body, assessing my condition with the practiced eye of a healer. I could feel the magic moving through him, pure, healing, ancient magic that seemed to pull the pain from my very soul and replace it with something like peace. The magic felt like it had been old when the world was young, like it had healed countless wounded creatures across centuries that he had lived. "What is your name, little one?" he asked gently, his green eyes searching my face. "Leanna," I whispered, my voice broken from 3 days of silence, barely above a breath. "Well, Leanna, you're going to be just fine. I'm going to take you somewhere safe, somewhere warm, and then we're going to figure out exactly what you are, because I've lived for 300 years, and I have never felt an aura quite like yours. There's something ancient in you, something powerful that's just waiting to be awakened. 300 years. The number should have terrified me. But in that moment, as his healing magic wrapped around me like a warm blanket on a cold night, like the embrace of someone who actually cared about my survival, I allowed myself to believe that perhaps my life wasn't over. Perhaps it was only just beginning. Over the following weeks, Alaric nursed me back to health with a patience and tenderness that seemed almost impossible. His pack welcomed me with curiosity rather than contempt, treating me as a guest of honor rather than a threat or a problem. The children of the Eastern Pack would bring me flowers when I lay recovering in the healer's chamber, placing them gently beside my bed with shy smiles. The older she-wolves taught me their pack's ways, their customs and traditions, sharing stories that had nothing to do with my shame or my past. Alaric's pack was different from everything I had known in the north. There was gentleness here, a respect for all members regardless of their status or usefulness, a philosophy that valued kindness as much as strength. They treated me with respect that I hadn't felt in years, not since before the bond with Theron had begun to deteriorate. As I recovered, Alaric began to teach me about what I truly was. He would spend hours in the ancient library of the Eastern Pack, pulling down books written in languages I didn't recognize, consulting with the elder priestess who had served the pack for longer than even Alaric had been alive. "Your bloodline is called Moonblood," he explained one evening as we sat beneath the ancient oak trees of the Eastern Pack's sacred grove, trees that had been old when my grandmother's grandmother was young. "There are very few left in this world. Your ancestors were born during the age of heroes, when the boundary between wolf and human was even more fluid than it is now, when the very fabric of reality was thinner and more mutable. Moonblood wolves have the ability to channel the power of Luna herself through their bodies, to draw down the moon's light and use it as a weapon or a tool or a source of healing magic. But it's a rare gift and a dangerous one. Most packs fear what they don't understand, and moonblood wolves are terrifying to those who cannot sense the deeper magic. He spoke of the ancient texts, of prophecies written in silver ink on pages made from the skin of ancient creatures, of bloodlines thought lost to time and tragedy. Is that why I was barren? I asked, finally ready to hear the truth about my greatest shame. Alaric's expression grew dark, his green eyes stormy with barely contained anger. No, Leanna, you were never barren. Your body was protecting itself. A curse runs through your former mate's bloodline, an old curse from a dark magic performed generations ago by a sorcerer who wanted to claim the Alpha's position. Any child born of that curse would be twisted, broken, dangerous, born into a slow corruption that would consume them as they grew. Your moonblood nature recognized this poison in his blood, and your womb simply refused to accept a corrupted seed. It was your body's way of protecting an innocent life from being born into damnation, into a living nightmare of pain and degradation. You were never worthless. You were the strongest of you two all along. Tears streamed down my face as I finally understood the truth about myself. I hadn't failed. I had been the stronger one all along. My body, my spirit, my moonblood heritage had recognized something deeply toxic in Theron's blood and had rejected it with all the power it could muster. The shame that had nearly destroyed me, that had driven me to the edge of death itself, transformed in that moment into something else entirely. Power. Power in knowing I had been right all along, even when everyone told me I was wrong. Power in understanding that I had always had more strength than he did. As the seasons changed and turned through their cycles, something unexpected happened. Alaric and I grew closer in ways that surprised us both. And unlike with Theron, this closeness felt right in a way that was fundamental and unshakable. The pull between us was undeniable, a gravity that drew us together with each passing day. But it wasn't the burning obsession of a forced mate bond that consumed all sense and reason. It was something far deeper, the recognition of two souls who actually belonged together, who complemented and strengthened each other rather than fighting for dominance. He would take me riding through the forest on summer evenings, showing me the beauty of the Eastern Territories. We would spend afternoons in the library, reading ancient texts together, sharing knowledge and philosophy and dreams for the future. He would hold my hand in a way that felt so natural, so right, that I wondered how I had ever accepted Theron's cold touch. One night, beneath the light of a silver full moon, the same moon that had once blessed Theron's marking of me, Alaric asked me something that Theron had never bothered to ask. Leanna, will you allow me to mark you as my mate? Not because it is expected, not because we are following the rules of pack society, but because I love you, because I see you, truly see you, for who and what you really are, because you are my true mate, the one Luna intended for me from the moment I was born. Alaric marked me with reverence and tenderness that brought tears of joy to my eyes. He asked for my consent before each step. He whispered words of honor and respect and genuine, unconditional love. He knelt before me, not as a powerful alpha, before a lesser wolf, but as an equal, as a partner, as someone who recognized my worth without needing me to prove it. When our bond solidified, I felt it in every cell of my body, in every fiber of my being. This was my true mate. This was what Luna had always intended for me. This was the life I should have been living all along. Within 2 weeks, I conceived. The healer's magic flowed through Alaric's hands as he confirmed it, his green light dancing across my skin, finding the new life growing within me. My body finally free from the curse that had bound it for so long, finally with someone whose bloodline was compatible with my moonblood nature, flourished with the pregnancy in ways that seemed almost miraculous. It was the easiest conception in the history of our kind because it was the most right thing that had ever happened to me. As my pregnancy progressed, my power grew with it. I could feel the moon inside me, could sense the lunar cycles in my very bones. I would have visions during the dark moons, images of futures that might be, possibilities and potentialities. The child would kick in perfect rhythm with the full moon, its movements synchronizing with the lunar cycle as if it was a creature born of the moon itself, rather than of human parentage. The Eastern Pack watched in wonder as my belly grew, as my eyes began to glow softly with silver light even during the day. Our child was born during the new moon of spring, when the night sky was darkest and Luna seemed to be holding her breath, when the barrier between worlds was thinnest. The midwives had prepared the birthing chamber carefully with symbols of protection drawn on the walls in silver ink, with candles made from rare herbs meant to ease the birth. And when our baby took its first breath, something impossible happened. The child glowed, not a soft, pretty glow that would fade with time, a radiant, powerful luminescence that filled the entire birthing chamber with pure silver light, so bright that the midwives had to shield their eyes. The nurses gasped and fell back. The healers stepped back in awe and reverence. Alaric, my beautiful, wise Alaric, fell to his knees beside our child and wept tears of joy and awe, tears that he made no effort to hide or control. "What have we created?" I whispered, my voice filled with wonder and reverence as I held our glowing infant to my chest. The light pulsed in time with the baby's heartbeat, pure lunar power given physical form, an impossible child born from an impossible love. "The future," Alaric breathed, his voice thick with emotion. "The most powerful wolf child born in 1,000 years. The moon bloodline thought extinct. It lives again. It lives in our child. Our baby is the beginning of a new age." When word of this miracle spread beyond the Eastern Pack's borders, it traveled like fire through dry grass, spreading through all the neighboring territories. It reached the Northern Pack like a shock wave that sent tremors through their entire society. Theron heard that his rejected, barren mate had not only conceived, but had birthed a child glowing with ancient power, power that he could have never produced, power that his cursed bloodline could never create. His heir was now the property of his greatest rival, the Eastern Alpha, the child that he had declared impossible. The evidence of his own inadequacy was walking proof that everything he had rejected had been exactly what he needed all along. An advisor rushed into Theron's chamber with news of the birth, his face pale with the knowledge of what it meant. Theron's face drained of color as he heard the truth. His beautiful, ethereal, worthless, barren mate had given birth to the most powerful child in 1,000 years. His wolf howled inside him, a sound of anguish that echoed through the stone halls of his pack. He threw things in his rage, broke furniture with his bare hands, scarred his own arms with his claws as he tried to process the magnitude of his error. I never heard directly what Theron felt in those terrible moments, the full depths of his regret and despair, but travelers who passed between the territories whispered that his crown had grown heavier on his head with each passing day. Some said he had grown mad with regret, that he would spend long nights staring at nothing, unable to eat or sleep. Others claimed he had tried to launch a war against the Eastern Pack to reclaim what he considered his possession, his property, his rightful heir. But the Eastern Pack's borders held firm, and any attempt he made to reclaim what he had destroyed came to nothing. None of it mattered anymore. I was no longer the barren mate. I was the mother of Moonlight, the she-wolf who had given birth to a child that would reshape the very face of our world. My child's power would remake the foundations of our society, would change the way packs thought about bloodlines and heritage and the true definition of worth. Theron had made a terrible mistake when he looked at me with those cold amber eyes and declared me worthless in front of his entire pack. He had not seen what I truly was. He had not understood that sometimes the greatest power in the world is not the ability to destroy, is not dominance or control, or the ability to make others fear you, but the ability to create something so magnificent, so pure, so radiant, that it will be remembered and celebrated for generations to come. As I looked down at my glowing child in Alaric's arms, both of us watching in awe as our baby's light illuminated the room, I understood that every tear, every humiliation, every moment of shame and despair had led to the single perfect moment. I had been forged in the fires of rejection into something that Theron could never have imagined, could never have created, could never have possessed. And the best part, I had found a true mate in the process. I had found a home with people who valued me for who I was, rather than what I could produce. I had found myself, my true self, the self that had been waiting to emerge all along. The old saying among our kind goes, a barren mate is worthless, but they were wrong, and now everyone would know it. I was never barren. I was just waiting for the right alpha, waiting for my moonblood heritage to awaken in its fullest power, waiting for the moment when my true purpose would reveal itself beneath the silver light of Luna's blessing. And now, here it was. My child glowed with powers that hadn't been seen in 1,000 years. My mate looked at me the way a true alpha should, with respect, with honor, with genuine love and appreciation for my strength. And the Northern Pack? Well, Theron could keep his hollow title and his cursed bloodline. I had something far more valuable, the truth of who I really was, and the proof that sometimes what seems like the cruelest rejection is actually the greatest gift imaginable. The night sky welcomed me home, and the moon herself smiled down upon us all. Listen to me closely. If you are in a situation right now where someone is telling you that you're worthless, that you're broken, that you failed at being what they needed, I want you to know something. You might not be broken. Your body, your spirit, your very essence might be protecting you from something you can't yet see. The greatest power in the world is not always obvious, and sometimes it takes losing everything to realize that what you had was never really worth having in the first place. You might be a moonblood yourself, waiting for the right circumstances, the right person, the right moment to reveal what you truly are. Don't let anyone convince you that your worth is measured by their capacity to recognize it. The moon will always know your true value. The truth of my story is this: rejection was not my ending. It was my beginning. The pain I felt when Theron cast me out, The humiliation I endured before the entire pack, the desperate days, wandering through the forest, barely clinging to life. All of it was necessary. All of it was the chrysalis from which a far stronger, far more powerful version of myself would eventually emerge. I had to be broken to be remade. I had to be cast out to find where I truly belonged. I had to lose everything to discover what I had always possessed. Theron spent those 2 years trying to make me something I could never be, a mate to a cursed man, a vessel for corrupted blood, a she-wolf who would compromise her own integrity and power to satisfy his demands. But my moonblood nature refused. My body refused. My spirit refused. And in that refusal, I was actually protecting not just myself, but potentially countless future generations from the darkness that coursed through his veins. I was not weak. I was the strongest one in that courtyard, and now the entire world knows it. Alaric once told me something I've never forgotten. He said that true power isn't measured by the ability to harm, to dominate, or to control others. True power is the ability to create, to nurture, to build something from nothing that will outlast you, that will inspire generations yet unborn. And he was right. My daughter, glowing with moonblood magic, represents more power than Theron could ever accumulate through 1,000 years of ruling. She represents transformation. She represents hope. She represents the proof that something beautiful can emerge from the darkest circumstances. The transition from being the barren mate to the mother of moonlight taught me that the cruelest rejections often come from those too blind to see what they're discarding. Theron looked at me and saw only a vessel, one that failed to serve his purposes. He never saw the power. He never saw the ancient bloodline. He never saw the woman who would one day reshape the world. But Alaric saw. From the moment he found me broken beside that river, he saw. He recognized what I was before I recognized it myself. And that's the difference between a mate chosen by fate but refused by pride, and a true soulmate found by destiny. The evening before our child was born, as I felt the stirrings of labor beginning deep within me, I walked to the edge of the Eastern Pack's territory. I looked back toward the north, toward the cold stone courtyard where my humiliation had taken place, and I felt something unexpected. Gratitude. Not gratitude for the pain. I would never be grateful for that. But gratitude for the contrast. Gratitude that I had been thrown into darkness so that I could understand the profound beauty of light. Gratitude that I had been rejected so that I could experience true acceptance. Gratitude that I had felt worthless so that I could rise up and become invaluable. Alaric found me there, standing at the border, my hand pressed against my belly, where our child moved with increasing urgency. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, his strong presence anchoring me as I felt the weight of everything I had endured and everything I was about to become. He didn't need to ask what I was thinking about. He understood. We stood together in silence as the first stars began to appear in the darkening sky, and I felt the final threads of my old life breaking away completely. I was no longer Theron's mate. I was no longer the barren one. I was no longer the failure everyone had whispered about. I was becoming something entirely new. That night, as the moon reached its darkest phase and the night sky seemed to hold its breath, my daughter began her journey into the world. The labor was intense and terrifying at first, but as my moonblood power awakened fully with the birthing process, I felt less like I was suffering and more like I was channeling something cosmic, something ancient, something that had been sleeping in my bloodline for generations. The experienced midwives worked alongside me, their hands steady and sure, their voices calling out encouragement. Alaric remained by my side throughout, his healing magic flowing into me, easing the worst of the pain, helping me through each wave of contraction. When she finally came, my beautiful, glorious daughter, the room exploded with light, not a soft, gentle light, a radiant, almost violent luminescence that seemed to burn from within her very skin. The silver light was so bright that even the midwives had to shield their eyes, and the healers who stood at the edges of the room gasped in awe and reverence. I had never seen anything so beautiful, so impossible, so utterly perfect. When she was placed in my arms, still slick with birth fluids, her light seemed to respond to mine. Our two glows intertwined, creating patterns of pure lunar energy that made everyone in the room weep, even the most hardened healers, the ones who had assisted at thousands of births, stood transfixed by what they were witnessing. This was not a normal birth. This was a cosmic event. This was the beginning of something that would ripple across generations. And when she emerged, glowing with power, so ancient and so pure that it made even the experienced healers weep, I understood that every scar I carried, every tear I had shed, every moment I had questioned my own worth, had been necessary to bring her into existence. She was not just my child. She was proof. She was vindication. She was transformation made flesh. And she was the most beautiful argument against everything Theron had ever said about me. Days after the birth, when Alaric and I lay together, watching our daughter sleep in the silver moonlight streaming through our window, he asked me if I regretted any of it, if I would undo what had happened if given the chance. I looked at him, this ancient and powerful alpha who had seen centuries pass, who had healed countless wounded souls, and I realized that the question itself had become absurd. How could I regret the path that led to this? How could I undo the rejection that freed me? How could I wish away the pain that forged me into someone strong enough to carry this child, to nurture this power, to become the mother of the future? And I told him the truth. No, if changing my past meant I wouldn't have this love, this child, this life, then I would walk through every moment of pain again. I would face Theron's cruelty again. I would endure the pack's judgment again. I would collapse bleeding beside that river again. All of it, every second of it, was worth the price of this moment. Some pain is the price of transcendence. Some rejection is the gateway to revelation. Some broken things, when put back together, become stronger than they ever were before. Theron's attempt to reclaim what he had cast away came 3 months after our daughter's birth. We heard that he had gathered warriors and was marching toward the Eastern Pack's borders, fully intending to wage war, if necessary, to reclaim his rightful child. He didn't understand that our daughter was not his property, not his heir, not anything he could take or control or bend to his will. She was free in a way he would never be. When his warriors approached our borders, the Eastern Pack's scouts brought word to Alaric, and instead of preparing for war, Alaric simply smiled. He walked with me to the border, our daughter in my arms, still glowing with her soft silver light. She seemed to sense the significance of the moment because her light intensified as we approached the boundary between territories. When Theron saw us, when he saw me standing strong and radiant with our child glowing between us, something in his face crumbled. The stories that came back to the Eastern Pack said that the color drained from his face, that his wolf howled in a sound of such profound anguish that it sent chills through even the most experienced of his warriors, that he looked at our daughter's glowing form and finally understood what he had thrown away. He turned his warriors around without a single word, whether it was the display of power or the realization of his own error, or simply the shock of seeing what he had lost. I never knew for certain. What I did know was that he never tried again. He never reached out. He never attempted to reclaim. From that day forward, Theron was simply a cautionary tale. The alpha who had everything and lost it all because he was too blind to see what he possessed. My advice to any she-wolf who has been told she is worthless, any woman who has been discarded by someone too broken to see her value, is this: do not accept their assessment of you. Do not let their blindness become your reality. Do not allow their cruelty to define your worth. Look instead to the moon. Trust in the deeper magic of your own bloodline, your own spirit, your own essence. There are alphas out there who will see you, true mates who will recognize you, people who will treasure what others have rejected. And when you find them, when you discover who you were always meant to be, you'll understand that being called worthless was actually the greatest gift. It was the thing that freed you to become magnificent. I spent 2 years believing Theron's assessment of me, 2 years of accepting that my inability to conceive meant my inability to matter, 2 years of internalizing the shame of an entire pack society, and in doing so, I nearly missed my greatest destiny. If I had believed him completely, if I had surrendered entirely to his judgment, my daughter would never have been born. My beautiful, glowing, powerful child, the child who represents hope and transformation, and the triumph of ancient bloodlines, would have simply ceased to exist. The world would have lost something profound and irreplaceable. That's the danger of accepting someone else's judgment about your worth. You don't just diminish yourself, you diminish the future. You diminish the potential of generations yet unborn. You diminish the very essence of magic and destiny and purpose. So when someone tells you that you're worthless, remember my story. Remember that I was told the same thing by the most powerful alpha in 5 territories. I was humiliated before an entire pack. I was cast out and left to die in the wilderness. And yet I rose. I transformed. I became something far greater than anyone predicted. And the child I bore became a legend. Do not let their darkness become your truth. Your worth is not measured by their capacity to see it. Your power is not diminished by their ignorance of it. Your destiny is not destroyed by their rejection of it. The moon knows your value, even if they don't. The universe recognizes your purpose, even if they can't. And somewhere out there, someone will see you the way Alaric saw me, not as a vessel for their purposes, but as a complete and whole being deserving of love, respect, and genuine partnership. That person is waiting. That life is waiting. That glorious transformation is waiting. You just have to survive long enough to find it. You just have to be brave enough to believe that your best days aren't behind you, but ahead of you. You just have to trust that rejection can lead to revelation, that pain can lead to power, that loss can lead to something more magnificent than you ever imagined. If you'd like to hear more stories of she-wolves who reclaim their power, who transform their pain into triumph, who found their true mates and their true homes. I invite you to subscribe to this channel and join our pack. We're all here, waiting to celebrate your journey as you discover just how magnificent you really are. Leave a comment below and tell me, have you ever felt worthless? Have you ever been told you were broken? Have you ever been cast aside by someone who was too blind to see your value? Share your story with our community. Let us remind you of your power. Tell us how you're surviving, how you're thriving, how you're becoming. Our packs are strongest when we share our truths with each other. Every story you tell becomes a lifeline for someone else who is wandering alone in the forest, bleeding beside a river, wondering if they'll ever be whole again. You might not realize it, but your story could be the one that saves someone's life. Your triumph could be the proof that another she-wolf needs to believe that transformation is possible. Your power could ignite the spark in someone who has nearly given up. So please share your stories. Tell us who you were when the world said you were worthless. Tell us where you are now. Tell us what it took to climb out of the darkness. Let us celebrate you the way you deserve to be celebrated. Let us remind you that you are so much more than what anyone ever said you were, because sometimes the barren mate becomes the mother of moonlight, and sometimes that glorious transformation is just waiting for you. The question is, will you be brave enough to claim it when it arrives? To everyone watching this right now, to every she-wolf listening to these words and feeling that spark of recognition, that moment of seeing yourself in my story, I want you to know that your transformation is not just possible, it's inevitable, it's destiny. It's written in the stars and the moon and the very fabric of who you are. The only question is whether you'll survive long enough to see it, whether you'll be brave enough to keep going when everyone tells you to give up, whether you'll trust that what's ahead is better than what you've left behind. I'm telling you that it is. I'm living proof that it is. My daughter is living proof that it is. Every pack in every territory knows that the barren mate became the mother of moonlight, and every she-wolf who hears this story will know that they too can transform. They too can transcend. They too can become something so magnificent that the very world reshapes itself around their power. So, as you leave this video, I want you to make a promise to yourself. Promise that you will not accept anyone else's judgment about your worth. Promise that you will believe in your own power, even when no one else can see it. Promise that you will keep going, keep searching, keep fighting for the life you deserve. Promise that you will become the mother of moonlight in your own story. And when you do, when you finally rise up and claim the power that has always been yours, come back and share your story with us. Remind others that transformation is possible. Remind the world that what seems worthless can become invaluable. Remind everyone that the moon always knows your true value, even if the world is too blind to see it. Subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss another story of redemption, resurrection, and power. Join our pack. Become part of our community of she-wolves who are reclaiming their power and reshaping their destinies. Because we're all in this together. We're all rising together. We're all becoming magnificent together. And if you're out there right now, feeling broken, feeling worthless, feeling like the world has made its final judgment about who you are and what you're capable of, I want you to know something with absolute certainty. You are not finished. Your story is not over. Your greatest power is not behind you. It's ahead of you, waiting in the darkness, glowing with silver light, just waiting for the moment you're brave enough to claim it. You might be moonblood yourself. You might carry ancient power in your veins that no one has recognized yet. You might be destined for something so magnificent that the world will reshape itself around you. But you'll never know if you give up now. You'll never know if you accept their judgment as your truth. The only way to find out is to keep going, keep surviving, keep hoping, keep believing. You have something inside you, ancient, magical, glorious, that is just waiting for the right moment to emerge and remake your world. So don't give up. Don't surrender to their judgment. Don't accept their assessment of your worth. Instead, look toward the moon. Trust in the deeper magic. Believe in your own power and keep going. Keep surviving. Keep becoming, because somewhere ahead of you, there is a river with healing. Somewhere ahead of you, there is an alpha with silver-streaked hair and knowing eyes who will see what Theron was too blind to recognize. Somewhere ahead of you, there is a future so magnificent, so glorious, that everything you've suffered to get here will suddenly make sense. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for believing that transformation is possible. Thank you for being brave enough to hope that your own greatest days are still ahead. The night sky welcomes you. The moon knows your name. And somewhere in the depths of your being, your own moonblood magic is waiting to awaken. Will you answer its call?